Greetings, everybody out there in Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're finding this particular episode of Fighting the Void. It is I, Ginger, and we are back to talk about, well, whatever the hell insanity went on last night and is going on today, and it's probably going to go on for the next month and a half. Because, holy crap, we have been served up the perfect nightmare scenario of an election, haven't we? And to help kind of go through all of this is uh, my friend Cullen Bridges. We happen to be in a DM group together, and we regularly get into philosophical, historical, and theological discussions. And it's one of the spiciest and most interesting rooms that I have ever had the pleasure of being a part of. So consider that a shout out to everybody else who's in there as well. And I see one of our other one of our other participants in the Holy Wars is in the chat already. Hi, how you doing there, Margot?
Hi, Margot.
And yes, we regularly call them, in fact, Holy Wars. There's even a regular image that gets posted at the conclusion of every debate, and we have to scrape each other off the floor. I don't know, reconstitute each other's ashes after we burn each other at the stake.
Multiple bringing people back who left.
Yeah, that happens too. Just a little bit. Yeah, and like I said, reconstituting the ashes after we burn each other at the stake.
Yeah.
No, you're going to hell. It's a good time. But we're not here to talk about that today, which is actually funny because when I talked to Cullen about coming on the show, at first we were going to talk about the fact that Cullen has been delving into a lot of the Jewish roots of Christianity, and that I thought that'd be a very interesting conversation. And then it dawned on me, wait a minute, that's literally the day after the election. I think we're going to talk about something else. So we're going to have that conversation another time, and it'll be super interesting. But for now, we're going to talk about Election Crapstorm 2020. So, Cullen, I know you also, along with everyone else in the group, were up late last night, following results, and we were all speculating. It's like, okay, well, we got to win this. Oh well, it doesn't matter if we lose that, and what the hell is going on in Virginia, and just all kinds of things. So what was your roller coaster going through last night?
Well, I'm pessimistic naturally, not because like I'm a terrible person in real life, but I like to imagine I'm quite fun. But no, like, see, my mentality, I disagree with my mom on this. My mother thought it was going to be a landslide. I heard other conservatives saying it's going to be a landslide for Trump, right? And then I heard from people from the left saying that it was going to be a landslide for Biden, and as we're clearly seeing now, neither of those sides are correct. It is one thing I noticed as well, aside from DC, which apparently they hate Trump. If you look at all these states, Biden or Trump is winning. We're talking 40s, we're talking 50% of the split on the vote here.
Yeah.
We cannot live in a more divided time in this country than we do now. It is unbelievably divided. And that was my mentality going in. I did not and still do not expect Trump to win the election personally. I think you mentioned this once, that the difference, people have to understand this. 2016 is not 2020. The reason the left lost in 2016 is because they got cocky with Hillary, and Trump was this guy who's going to break the system. They've had 4 years of built up anger, and that's what we're seeing tonight, or we're seeing probably for a couple days now. And so in terms of who's going to win this, I think it's going to be Biden. But even despite that, we'll probably get into that later about what's really probably going to happen.
Yeah, it was, last night was crazy. And I went into it very optimistic. I wasn't sure how things would turn out. I was kind of starting to let myself hope we'd be in a landslide type situation for Trump, but I couldn't quite completely sign off on it either. I'm like, something tells me no. Like I was like, my gut is telling me a win, but not nearly as decisive as we would like. So suffice to say, I don't know. It in any case, it clearly is devolved into a quagmire.
Mhm.
Despite when I went to bed last night, I was like, okay, they're taking their time calling a few states, and but Trump is leading in pretty much every state that
And
needs
then
to.
you woke up.
And then I woke up, and I was like, oh wow, the Trump's like couple 100,000 lead in Michigan was like down to 12K at the
Mhm.
time, and very and they were calling Wisconsin for Biden and Arizona for Biden
Mhm.
and Nevada for Biden. I'm like, what is okay? What
Yeah.
happened? And then as I go through the day, I was at work and everything, so I was checking as I could, and I'm like, man, I see graphs of the votes, and graphs are like, they're like
Mhm.
until
Yeah.
all of a sudden, and this happened both in Michigan and Wisconsin, boom, straight up for Biden,
Mhm.
like just
100% of these mail-in votes coming in for Biden. Not one of them. You remember this? Not or one of them was coming up for Trump. We're talking
yeah,
100% was what they're saying for Biden. And I'm
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
Eve, I don't care how progressive you are. You cannot seriously look at me in the eye and tell me that Biden got 100% of every single one of those ballots. I'm not even saying the Democrats are going to cheat the election. I'm just saying something is not right. Okay,
Oh no, I'll go ahead and
something
say
isn't
it. They're
right.
trying to cheat the damn election.
I mean,
I'll,
like I said,
I'll
I'm
come
not
right out.
saying.
I'm not monetized on YouTube. I don't care. They're clearly trying to steal the ever. They're clearly
Oh.
clearly stealing the election. Like I mean, you brought up that I had pointed out they weren't ready in 2016.
Mhm.
They really believed that they were fully high on their own supply. They did not understand what the situation was with Trump back then. They were
Mhm.
no way prepared to deal with the way the
He was
voters
a
turned
wild
out
card.
on
He was
that.
a wild card
He
candidate.
he was a
He
complete
was the
wild card
guy.
candidate.
Mhm.
And this time though, they had their backup plans ready. And I don't know if I think it was actually classical conservative. He called it, or maybe it was Norman Young who called it after Biden's speech. Is like, that was the that was the trigger of the backup plan speech.
Mhm.
And then a
Oh
few
yeah,
hours
yeah.
later,
Mhm.
sure enough, bang for Biden. It's like,
I mean, I
huh,
expected the vote to go because here's the thing. I expected the vote to go up for Biden when the mail-ins came in because we were told weeks in advance that Democrats are obviously voting in by mail. I expected there to be like, you know,
right.
but the amount he's getting though is just, you know,
Highly suspicious. Not to
yeah.
mention, now here's something that's been bothering me. And who knows? Maybe you actually know the answer to this. You never know. Um, Going into it, we were taught. We were hearing a lot about what the early voter results were.
Mhm.
We're hearing a lot of that and a lot of projections based on those numbers. And of course those early votes were all mail-in and absentee votes.
Mhm.
How did we know those numbers unless somebody was counting them already?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And now
Uh,
then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's actually our policy. We don't count them until last after all the
yeah.
polls are closed and everything. I'm
And
like,
see,
really?
here's the weirdest thing about this election. I don't care if it's COVID or not. I remember 2016, and I'm not going back on my word saying it's the same, but I remember in 2016 staying up till 2 in the morning and they were counting votes. And yet we're
Yeah.
talking about this election, and we're stopping
They're like,
earlier
yep, no,
than
we're done. We're done. Guys,
yeah.
really?
Right. Like
Despair.
you're telling me 2016 we couldn't gain that energy to count some votes, but then
Right.
2020 hit and apparently, oh, we need a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slam a Red Bull and do your job.
I mean, yeah. I can tell you personally, working in it was local news, granted, but we were
Mhm.
running the governor election, constantly answering the phones around the clock, getting the numbers, getting the numbers,
Right.
getting the numbers. Those people are working their butts off, or at least they should be.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense to me now that all of a sudden, well, we need a break, we need to take hours on end, and like you said, then Biden gave his speech, and
All of
it's
a
just
sudden,
all
votes
weird.
started to materialize just a
Yeah,
few hours later. So strange.
everybody
And
expected that Biden was going to get some. no one was. Oh, maybe we should have been expecting that he was going to get as much as he has now.
Yeah. Now here's something. Matthew Hammond, and hello, Matthew. I noticed Matthew, Lord Cole, and Red showing up in the chat. How you guys doing? Now, Matthew, he brings up something interesting. Um, Apparently, Project Veritas has an insider postal worker from Michigan. So there's something's going to come out from there. That's
Was
going
it
to be interesting.
was
I
it
don't know.
what Crowder was talking about last night? Because didn't he
Well,
have somebody?
I don't know what this is going to be. It sounds like this is something that hasn't come out yet. So this is going to be new, whatever it is, and that is interesting because it's just one piece of many of signs of, at the very least, potential voter fraud in Michigan. We already kind of talked about the 128,000 or however many votes that came in all at once, and they were literally all for Biden. Bullshit. Anyway,
Yeah.
there's Crowder. He apparently had I only just started watching his stream from earlier today, so I'm not caught up on it. But apparently, he had in his show today footage of people literally wagoning in ballots at 2 a.m.
Yep.
after supposedly they had stopped counting votes in Michigan.
Oh, they stopped counting them. They didn't say they stopped delivering them.
Oh, and I don't think they stopped counting them. I think they just started massaging them.
Yeah.
And so you've got stuff like that. I just saw a video earlier today of they were at a polling station. I think it was over by Detroit. They were blocking up windows where the counters were working. And now I know if I were a lefty, my thought was like, well, they're worried about people are getting violent outside and stuff. No, that's not what was happening.
Yeah.
There were people outside, and it looked like this was like a room inside a building, from what it looked like. And it's like there were all kinds of people and everything outside, but they were just at a very large distance from the room and just taking pictures and stuff through the windows. Which, just from looking at the video, looks like that's probably a normal thing. There was nobody like jockeying around and trying to think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get the scoop. No, they were just doing what they normally do, and all of a sudden somebody comes out and starts blocking up the windows. I'm like, what is this BS?
Yeah.
And then my wife, she texted me just as we were getting ready to go live. She texted me something from the Secretary of State website. This is interesting, that Trump is actually up, and this was updated at about an hour ago. Trump was up in Michigan by like 200,000 votes.
And that's the thing. Even throughout the night, Michigan was looking Trump.
Yeah,
that was the thing. It was looking Trump. It was, it's just so weird. And I think one of the biggest issues right now is just the coverage of the election in particular, especially from Fox News. Fox News has bombed this election process. I remember, it's bad when CNN took back the Virginia thing, but Fox kept it up. When CNN does that, but Fox doesn't, something's up.
Yeah, well, Fox has been, I think it's been noticed by conservatives for a while that Fox has been squirrely. I mean, even right after the 2016 election, all of a sudden they've got Donna Brazile working for them now.
And Candace Owens is leaving, right?
What's that?
And isn't Candace Owens leaving now?
Because
of the Daily Wire.
Candace,
she doesn't work for him, but she has the Outnumbered show on there.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know she was on Fox at all.
Oh yeah.
Well, okay. Well, good.
Jumping ship to DW.
Leave the sinking ship. Yeah, I heard that she was going to the Daily Wire. She's just like everywhere. But yeah, in fact, it's worth actually doing a whole episode just on Candace Owens, because she is one heck of a polarizing figure. But oh goodness, where was it? Oh yeah, Fox. Donna Brazile, the person who we know for a fact passed debate questions to Hillary Clinton. We know this.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she's working for Fox, and also people kind of notice, Fox is definitely not really all that
Mhm.
right wing, other than a couple of the opinion shows.
Mhm.
And in a certain sense, I want to be fair because Fox actually was kind of always not actually not nearly as right wing as the rest of the media wanted to make them out to
Yeah.
be, because there have always been from this very beginning way more liberals on Fox than there were conservatives on all the other networks put together.
I can't remember who it was saying it, but I think it was on Daily Wire, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
They were talking about like the original cast. You know, you had on Fox, you had Hannity, you had Bill O'Reilly, you had
Mm-hmm.
right, and I think those particular figures pushed this narrative that Fox was a super conservative thing, and so
Right.
we just that was what you that's what it's like. Oh yeah, Fox is conservative. Fox is conservative
Yeah.
because they had those like voices on there.
Yeah.
But
But of
now as we're
course,
seeing,
yeah.
yeah,
But of course, Hannity himself, he was on a show with I forgot his first name, but Combs. It was Hannity and Combs,
mm,
and Combs was the liberal.
yep,
And as far as I know, they were friends. They got along great and everything.
mm,
And the point being, and Combs also had his own radio show on Fox Radio. And the point is, they always had liberals on Fox, but it started to kind of get taken over. And then all of a sudden, this past year, it really got weird.
mm.
With as soon as Newt Gingrich uh, brought up George Soros, that whole interview just got shut down.
Oh yeah, what was it?
That was the most
Yeah,
bizarre thing. It's like,
yeah,
wow,
hmm
do tell. And apparently, I didn't know this until just the other day, but apparently Disney bought Fox. I like the
I
well,
knew they owned
I know
owned it.
they bought the movies, but
Mm.
somebody was saying, yeah, actually now that I think about it, maybe this person was just confused, but person was saying that
Who?
they actually bought the news
Yeah,
aspect. I don't know if that's true. Come to
I don't
think of it,
know.
I think that person might have just been confused. So I
I've seen some
rescinded my
people say
statement.
that.
Yeah,
Who? Black hair guy, Chris is his name on Fox. He was one of the moderators yesterday.
Wallace.
Chris Wallace, right? Yeah, I remember there was a very interesting part that happened there. I remember watching it, and it was during the election. And you could see some of the anchors were even questioning some of these calls they were making.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Wallace actually went on this small little, I want to call it like question rant
Mm-hmm.
almost. And it sounded very serious, but then he quickly jabbed in there. I'm just kidding, of course. But it's almost as if like someone was behind the camera going like, you know,
Hmm.
you could if you go back and you watch it, like there's something weird. Like it was like this quick like you could tell that was just like a jab in there, just like oh, it's just kidding, just kidding.
What was the kind of thing that he was?
It was regarding what people were complaining about that Fox was calling things extremely early. They called Virginia at 1% in, and then Chris Wallace later in the night he actually had like he had a fair statement about it on Fox itself, and then he
Ah.
just quickly had to backtrack it like I'm just kidding, of course. But
Hmm. That is really bizarre. Yeah,
mm,
I think I think whatever one thinks of them initially, I think Fox is thoroughly infiltrated at this point, and
yeah,
is no it is, as my brother has been calling them for a while, the other left wing media at this point. To be
yeah,
perfectly honest, it's like if you want any sort of stuff that isn't coming from the at least 70% left perspective,
mm,
it's Daily Wire or Blaze right now.
mm,
For the as far as stuff that doesn't get into wild conspiracy land.
yeah. No, we don't need any Alex Joneses leading the charge.
But the frogs really are gay, though.
They are gay. I do want to mention something though. You mentioned the Biden speech earlier. I want to talk about the Trump speech real quick.
Please.
This goes into the Daily Wire thing.
Yep.
People were giving Ben Shapiro, all right, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
biased by the way when I say this. People were giving Ben Shapiro a hard time because Ben Shapiro said that when Trump was declaring victory, he was
Yeah.
irresponsible. And everyone's like, oh, the never Trumper in 2016. But I'm thinking that's the truth, right? It was
Yeah.
extremely irresponsible for Trump to be calling a
Yep.
victory that early. And the fact that Ben Shapiro said it, but no one else was going to say it, tells me that I think the right itself, we need to reflect on our what we
Yes.
believe as well. Because do we really want to be just the opposite of progressives, or do we want to be the actual facts? We want to actually have the truth.
Yep.
So I think
No, I agree with that. And on yeah, I actually have, I think I've brought it up in the room a couple of times. I definitely have my issues with Shapiro, but he wasn't wrong here.
Yeah.
It was irresponsible and typical Trump bluster, but ill-timed Trump bluster to go and quasi-declare victory in that early speech last night.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the kind of thing that's going to lend itself towards just feeding the leftist narrative unnecessarily.
And that's the thing we need to admit. We just need to admit on the right that with all of the good Trump's done, the worst part about Trump is himself sometimes.
Yeah.
He doesn't shut up.
He's easily his own worst enemy.
Exactly.
Usually, if he would just shut up 5 minutes sooner, he would do much better. And
exactly.
The fact is, even though it's pretty clear to me that the left is very much trying to steal this election.
Oh yeah.
It still is far closer than it really should be. And a lot of that, not all of it, but a lot of it is definitely Trump's personality, is the fact that he is so off-putting to so many people. And he's done little, I won't say nothing, but he's done little to mitigate that since 2016.
Who wasn't? You said it was close. But yeah, no, he's definitely his own worst enemy in that regard. And I think if he does end up winning this election, I mean, he's got to put a hold on that a little bit.
Now I think he gave another speech at some point, or maybe it was part of the same speech. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but he did seem more subdued in general. Like actually contemplating the possibility that he might lose. And that's not a typical Trumpian stance at all. Contemplating the possibility of loss. That's really not in him. And
you said himself, he doesn't lose. He doesn't lose.
No, he doesn't lose, except when he does.
Yeah.
Beside the point. It's possible that should he come out to the victor, then maybe he'll have actually learned something. Of course, the question is whether or not it'll matter. And we're going to actually get right into that here shortly. But first, I want to recount some more of the voter fraud things that we've been hearing about. The most interesting one is the Sharpie issue in Arizona. Have you heard about this one?
I know that Twitter is definitely making sure you know about it, or don't.
Okay. So you do know about it.
Yeah.
That's there's video came out of some woman talking about how at her polling station that you went to, the people running it were like basically forcing Sharpies on people to fill out their ballots.
Right.
The reason that's important is apparently the voting machines, for whatever reason, only read ink. Why, like ink out of a pen. That seems odd to me. I don't know why that would be, but I haven't heard anyone disputing this.
I think I have heard, but it's also from Twitter, granted, because if you mention the words Arizona, ballot, and Sharpie, you'll get a little box at the bottom of your tweet, as Judge and many of us have played around with already. But no, it'll send you this thing. Twitter says it's like a fact check that Arizona, it is legal to use Sharpie. But I didn't realize that was the perspective that was going on, because the perspective I've been hearing is that people were saying it was illegal to use Sharpie, but apparently, from what you're saying, they're actually not saying that. I don't know.
That'll be interesting, because the whole thing is that supposedly the machines don't even read them, so it's like instantly invalidating all of those votes. That's going to be a problem, and I hope that's something that gets investigated. And if it turns out that whole thing is nonsense, well, okay, fine, then that particular thing is nonsense.
This particular thing right here is the reason. Not saying that you're bad or I'm bad. No, I mean, like, this particular confusion right now is the biggest issue. Like, every single thing is being questioned. Every single thing we have to wonder, did this happen? Did this happen? I mean, it's it's getting really bad, is what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. Real quick, just to go back onto Trump's personality. Now, Jake makes a comment. I think that his manner actually is a lot more helpful than we think it is. I think it speaks to those outside of the normal reach of the right and brings them in. Now, I think in a sense that's true,
Mm,
but the question is, does he lose more than he gains? At the very least, at best, I think it's a wash.
mm,
And I think you can keep the same. I think you keep a lot of the same blustering manner and
mm,
the same uh, the same willingness to kind of call people out on their BS and
mm,
tell people when it's like, you know what, I think you, frankly, you suck. I You can do that to an extent, but
mm,
still rein in some of the irresponsible statements, like
mm.
quasi declaring victory last night, even
Rosie
though
O'Donnell was a fat pig.
Rosie Donald's the fact, I don't know, that might be a net gain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But things like that. You could still moderate it a little bit or channel
Yeah.
it. Maybe moderate it isn't the right word. Maybe channel it differently is the better way to put it. Because you could definitely do that. And yes, a lot of his appeal is the fact that
Mm,
he's willing to take Jim Acosta to the woodshed.
mm.
I don't dislike
Yeah.
that.
It's when
But
he just needs to learn how to when to use it correctly
mhm.
and when to not.
Yeah, and also, I think the biggest, maybe not the biggest, but the first example of him doing it inappropriately was when he went after Megyn Kelly back in the 2016.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like it's one thing to be willing to say is like, you know what, your questions and everything were directed at me in a way that was meant to signal me out and
Mhm.
take me down. It's quite another thing to say. She was like bleeding from her eyes and probably, you know what, probably other places. It's like,
Mm. Yeah.
no, no,
Yeah.
no,
Don't
no.
yeah.
Just
That's she's on Fox 2 at the time. I'm like, that's a network you need to still be on your good side right now.
yeah, that I was like, that was one of the about the 9,000 times that I thought that he was done. but
Yeah.
but no, and which I guess also goes to the point that a lot of people are willing to overlook that, but at the same time,
Mm,
clearly not a lot of. There are lots of other people that are turned off by it. That's a whole other
mm,
thing. But yeah, I agree with Matthias who points. Yeah, Matthias makes the same point I was making. You can keep the brashness, but be a little bit more
mm.
careful with the words. Same thing we were
Yeah.
saying. Um, Now there's other there's other potential aspects of voter fraud that are out there. Pennsylvania probably being the single biggest one, which they had certified Republican poll watchers getting kicked out of polling stations.
Mm.
I think there was one example. This might have been in Michigan or Pennsylvania. I'm not sure. Where just as they were fixing to start counting some absentee ballots, all of a sudden an FBI guy shows up and says, and takes the Republican person to another room and is like, "You're not wearing your mask properly."
Mm.
Really?
Yeah, it's a lot of weird, like, I mean, like, let's
Weird
run down we
crap.
can run down the list. We're stopping counting votes at a weird time, despite in 2016 going to like almost 4 in the morning. We're talking about apparent footage of is it though? Yeah.
Yeah,
um of wheelbarrow of like ballots going in being like barreled in. I
right,
mean,
right there in Michigan. Yeah, yep.
it's like you have to wonder, like, of course everyone else is going to say you're crazy, and I mean, some of the things I've heard, yes.
Hmm.
But there are just blatant things that are being shown that you can't overlook these things. There's something weird about them.
Yeah, yeah. It is weird. Okay, it looks like Matthew might have sent a link to that James O'Keefe video that I guess O'Keefe just dropped it.
Oh,
So I'm gonna take a minute here and see if I can bring it up because I want to see this, and we might as well share it with all the peoples.
oh, you can do that on there.
Oh
Hmm.
heck yeah, dude!
Nice.
This thing. This program is the coolest.
I'm never using OBS again.
Well, this is kind of like poor man's OBS, and I would love to
Mm,
actually get OBS working
mm,
on my system, but it doesn't seem to like it. Either
mm,
doesn't like my Microsoft Surface or doesn't like the fact that I'm normally using two old HD TVs as external monitors.
mm,
It doesn't like one of those two things, or perhaps it's the combination of the two together that OBS just it doesn't work out so well.
mm.
Let's see here. Okay, here is the James O'Keefe video. Let me go ahead and okay, hold on just a second. I gotta get do some arranging here because I am not at home. I do not have my normal
Mm,
setup going on, so this is going to be a little harder than it normally would be. Okay, we're going to go ahead and share a screen here. Yeah, it's easiest with two monitors. Thanks,
mm,
StreamYard. No kidding. Okay, so we're going to share this, and then I'm going to expand it, and I actually let me know if you can actually hear the video when it's playing.
mm.
I don't know if that works well through this or not. Okay. Full screen, and here we go.
Yeah, I can't hear it on my end, but I can just pull it up.
Okay. Whoa.
Hmm.
So what we're getting here is this guy working at a post office up in Traverse City, which is a typical very it is a typical very left-wing area of
Mm,
Michigan. It's basically for those who don't know, that whole area is kind of like Hollywood's secret getaway. Uh, there's a there's a whole there's a whole like resort up there and everything where Hollywood people have got places and everything, and um, you know Bruce Willis and Madonna sightings and everything are not uncommon up around there.
mm,
Um, but you're getting what this guy is saying. He was being told to separate out ballots and stamp them with a false date
mm.
and stamp them such that they were received before the cutoff point when
Hmm.
clearly they came in after. That's interesting. Let's go ahead and keep going with this.
Good thing the subtitles as well. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Oh.
Well then,
Hmm.
okay. So
Um, hmm.
follow-up call says, I'm not interested in having this conversation. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Um,
Um,
you
you
could read
know,
that different ways, but
see, I totally forgot about that until they brought it up. That up to the election, Trump, there was definitely some hard feelings between Trump and the Postal Service.
oh yeah. After
Yeah,
the whole Trump's trying to destroy the post office
yeah,
debacle, give me a, that's another one. Give me a flipping break. Really?
yeah,
No, there was, there were previously scheduled things where the funding was, I think, getting decreased or just not going up as much, something like
Mhm.
that. And they're like, oh my gosh, he's,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, from the outside though, like some random worker though is probably thinking like, "Oh my gosh, like he's gonna do this." I mean, because
mhm.
believe it, people believe it, and so it wouldn't
Oh yeah,
surprise me if that some people overlooked that. I mean,
yeah, but it's yeah. Okay, so we've got that. We've got them circumventing, trying to make late votes count. And
mhm,
again, given where they are, those are definitely going to be left wing votes. Now you can say that those are still technically speak like if they were received on time, they'd be valid votes, and
mhm.
they would most likely go to Biden. On a percentage basis, they would most likely go there.
It just dawned on me.
Uh,
Do you know what one of the most
but
striking
mhm,
things
yeah,
about the DNC playing at something here?
hmm
Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham. Who are the other two? It
I mean,
was so. Think about this for a second.
hmm
The DNC threw a lot of money at these people to take down these top senators, right?
yeah.
So clearly there's definitely a game here
Oh
in
yeah.
trying, but I just think on top of that as well, like there's something going on.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Something
you're
is.
talking. I was almost about 100 million or something, 70 million put into Amy McGrath alone to try to get Mitch McConnell out.
Mhm. Oh yeah. I mean, they were throwing tons and tons and tons and
So
tons of money.
clearly, if they're willing to throw that much trying to get senators out, what's a couple of ballots gonna,
Yeah. Yeah. Especially since I'm sure it doesn't. Well, Ian, here's the thing. It doesn't even need to be some sort of nationwide coordinated effort to screw up the vote.
Yeah.
They've got, people that are the people that are hardcore on the left, they are really all in
Mm-hmm.
on this stuff, and they'll take this kind of action on their own. They don't need
Mm-hmm.
orders from on high.
Yeah.
They'll they'll do it on their own. They'll be like, you know what, we're going to make sure these ballots get in here because I want my guy to win. It doesn't need to all be directed and coordinated from freaking George Soros Central.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it it can just be them going, I'm going to do my part.
Yeah.
So I've got a box of ballots. It's like, you know what? I just got all of these ballots from a place where there were a lot of Trump signs.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Wasn't there that photo going around of some ballots found on like a rock or something?
yeah, found underneath a rock. I saw
Yeah.
another one of people burning some Trump
Mm-hmm.
ballots. Yeah, it's, and I was in a discussion with one of my more left-leaning friends on Twitter who's
Mm-hmm.
trying this people, but it's almost impossible to do voter fraud. Like, first of all, this individual was just doing a very narrow description of voter fraud, which is
Yeah.
essentially somebody impersonating somebody else on a ballot,
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. It's like, um, well, one, that's not exactly true because dead people seem to vote Democrat a lot.
Yeah.
And
Oh man, what
uh,
was that? Yeah, that was that old show where he was talking about zombies, and you mean a Democrat? So because even back then, that was a thing as well. It was a
yeah,
joke.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been an open joke for a long time. It's like, guys, that's not what Chesterton meant by the democracy of the dead. Okay,
Yeah.
that's not what he meant. But it, goodness, it's just flat out crazy. And the fact is, no, it's not hard to commit voter fraud, understood in the sense of actions that screw with the election. All you
Mm-hmm.
have to do is say, "Oh, look, yeet,"
Yeah.
or you know what, you and your couple of buddies in the polling station, You're the only ones there. Guess what? You've got a stack of ballots that haven't been filled out yet.
Yeah.
You know what? This person didn't show up to vote, so I think they like Joe Biden. you know,
Yeah.
this. If you don't think that can happen,
Oh, yeah.
you're wrong.
It's just blatant ignorance at this point for some people on the left.
And I think it also occurs to me, you don't have to impersonate somebody else to do to yeah, you don't have to impersonate somebody else to do another ballot, because guess what? If you're sort of behind the lines, you're not checking in with anybody else. That ballot is empty. There's no name on it.
You're right.
Obviously, it's an anonymous ballot, as it should be. If you've got a stack of them, you can fill it out however the hell you want. Let's be honest. And yes, this assumes that people are willing to do that. That's true. However, saying that never happens assumes that people would never do that. So
if they're willing to burn down an entire city, messing up with some ballots seems like child's play.
Yeah, and the thing is, now the first thing I would say, if I were a good lefty, who wouldn't even go down and burn down cities or anything like that. You want to say, like, well, no, those aren't the same people that are going to be running your polling stations. Bullshit. Because guess what? Some of those same people have been high school teachers, university professors. Sometimes the people in these riots are elected officials. Guess what? They are the same people. The same people out there throwing bricks through the Starbucks are quite possibly the same people that are counting your votes.
Same people. It's just ridiculous.
Or the same people that are going. The people. It's like, no, Antifa's just an idea.
Yeah.
Well, I just got hit in the face by an idea. So.
Yeah. And then you've also got a van showing up. Almost seems coordinated.
Yeah, exactly.
The Breonna Taylor one? That was it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. What you mean with the U-Haul showing up with the signs and everything?
Signs and not just an idea, a very coordinated idea.
Indeed, it's very very organized, organized for an idea. But what are you gonna do? And essentially speaking of more voter fraud, Wisconsin apparently, at least parts of it, registered more votes than they have voters.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
isn't that curious? I love Babylon Bee's headline on that. It's like, Wisconsin reports a 3,000% voter turnout. Yay! Gosh, I love the Babylon Bee.
They've been especially having fun with this one. Like when Mitch McConnell won, it was just a headline, one of those ones. It was just a picture of Mitch smiling, but they put like powder around his nose. It's
like Cocaine Mitch.
Yeah. Cocaine Mitch, though.
You know what? I can't remember who his primary challenger was back in the midterms, but thank goodness for that guy, because he gave us that meme. It's like, you know what, dude? You were a very, very lackluster individual. Somehow you managed to make McConnell look like the one he had pizzazz.
Yeah.
So somehow you pulled that off, but you gave us that line. You gave us the nickname Cocaine Mitch, and that the internet will forever be thankful to you.
Oh yeah.
But okay, so basically, it looks very clear that there is, at the very least, there's substantial reason to believe that there was significant voter fraud going on, at least in some places. Oh yeah. And there was, at least in New York, and this might have happened in Philly too, I'm not sure. People were being told, the machines aren't working. Leave your ballot with us, and we'll make sure it goes through when the machine's working again.
Yeah.
I don't think so. No. I'd be like, no, I'll go ahead and wait.
That doesn't even make sense, because voting's supposed to be a private thing anyway, right? They can just give ballots to some random person. The whole point.
Yeah.
They literally. I went to vote early, but I voted in person.
Yep.
It's like it's a classic. Like you got like school
Yep.
no cheat boxes. Like,
Yeah.
and then they're gonna say, "Well, just leave your ballot with these random people."
Yeah. No.
What do you think's gonna happen in New
Yeah.
York?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like, well, they're in the sleeve and everything, and they can't see them. Really? You don't think that they're like, oh my gosh, all these ballots are piling up on the desk. We got to take
Yeah,
these somewhere. We got to take them into the back room. And then they
yeah,
go, Trump, shredder,
yeah,
Biden, machine, Trump,
yeah.
shredder, Biden, machine, Trump. You see where I'm going with this?
Exactly.
And in fact, you know what? Come to think of it, part of the investigation of this should be going on right now, and they should literally be going through the
Hmm.
trash, seeing if they find shredded Trump ballots, and I'm not joking.
Hmm.
I'm
And if
not
they're,
joking at all. That should be happening exactly as we speak. And I hope there are lots of aspiring independent journalists out there that are doing exactly that right now,
mhm.
because I don't trust the feds to do it for a second.
Giuliani,
Especially by
yeah,
the time, you know what? You know how you get the feds to do it in a timely fashion? Tell
mm,
them that you saw a noose out by the trash can.
yeah. Hey, you know what? And to give NASCAR credit, it's probably the most viewers they've gotten in a long time from that incident alone.
No comment.
Yeah.
It's my goodness, it's been just absolutely in freaking sane. And then of course you got the Virginia thing where it's like, oh wait, we've got all of a sudden there. Oh wait, no, we accidentally gave 100,000 votes to Biden.
Yeah.
Really?
You know what
What? When
yeah,
when every mistake goes one way, is it really a mistake?
of course, because the media said so.
Right.
Yeah.
Or did they just get caught in that spot? Did they
Hmm.
did somebody raise the flag? And they're like, "Oh gosh, you know what? You're right. You're right. I can't believe we missed that. It was an oversight."
I'm just gonna bring up the age-old adage because it literally fits. If Trump did even half of the suspicious thing that's going on right now, he'd be called out for it immediately.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And if it would be marching in the streets of DC right now, in fact, they might be. They were last night.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'll before I go to bed tonight, I'll be doing some doom scrolling and seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, they would be marching in the streets, throwing Molotov cocktails at the freaking White House right now.
Hmm.
Hopefully, getting picked off by the Secret Service, but that's different. It's like, oh, you have Molotov cocktail, boom, done.
Yep.
You know what? I actually hope Secret Service has guns that make that sound,
Boop.
just because it would be fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But okay, all right, Colin. So we are in the quagmire. You mentioned that you think that Trump is likely to wind up still being declared the leader. However, after all the now, did that include after all of the recounts and lawsuits and everything are settled,
So
court
in
challenge?
order, my final bet is on con. No, I'm joking. My my final bet on seeing how this is gonna go. What's gonna happen next is Biden's gonna be declared the victor by the media.
Hmm.
Trump's obviously not gonna concede, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna contest it. It'll probably go up to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
And some people are saying if it goes to that point, Trump will likely be declared the victor.
Hmm.
So then what's going to happen? That
Yep.
Biden's not going to concede, and then it's going to be a lawsuit. It right now, it's just it comes down to how are we going to fix this? Because I mean, just look at the electoral votes right now. Even
Hmm.
with take all the policy, take all the opinions. For an election to be this close
Hmm.
is not a good sign.
No, it is not.
And so, no matter who wins, there is no one who's going to be happy. Even the people who win. In fact, actually, I want to bring up a Gravel Institute tweet I actually just saw. I think it was yesterday. The Gravel Institute tweeted Trump just won the highest share of non white support of any Republican in 60 years. The Democratic Party is an absolute joke. So, even if they're winning, it's not enough.
Yeah. See, here's the thing: Trump won handily Florida and Ohio, the
Yeah.
Catholic vote, did record numbers amongst Hispanics.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how he's doing amongst blacks. I don't know. I don't know that.
He actually went up.
Okay, went up.
Mhm.
How is this not a win? Because normally Ohio by itself is a good
Mhm.
indicator of victory. Florida by itself is a good indicator of
Yep.
victory. Catholic vote is a almost certain indicator of victory.
Mhm.
All of a sudden doing way better amongst Latinos and at least somewhat better amongst blacks. That would be a good sign that you're looking at a victory.
Yeah.
How in the hell is it even remotely possible
I'll give you
that it's
3
this
words.
actual close?
I'll give you 3 words.
Mhm.
Guilty white people.
Now, isn't that and right there, as you said, the Democratic Party is a joke because
Mhm.
who 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 votes for them? You know,
Yeah.
who turned out in record numbers for them? Guilty white people.
Yeah.
It's like, really? So your woke candidate who is going to fix racism was elected by white people? That does not fit your narrative, people.
Yeah. Oh, what was that? What was that tweet going around where someone said they're going to write like a an article about how the word Latino has actually mixed white people in there. Um, like
Yeah, oh yeah,
so now we're gonna throw the people we said we support to the curb because they didn't agree with us now.
right, because they're not real Latinos.
Yeah.
If you don't vote for me, you ain't Latino.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's
oh, for the
I
love
don't
of ever living crap.
it's the biggest irony is that the LGBTQ vote apparently went up for Trump as well. Hispanic vote went up for Trump. The black vote went up for Trump.
Yep.
And it means it's literally mostly white people voting for Biden.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the biggest irony that
Combination of white people and imaginary people.
yeah, it's just man.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think it was what was it? They continued on. I can't find it now. But yeah, it's just been that thread of, Biden's winning, but we're not happy because he's not winning enough. That our people
Yeah.
we our people that we protect, guilty white people, weren't on our side.
Except they were. They were like the only. They were
Yeah.
arguably the most reliably on your side.
Yeah.
You insufferable twits. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has noticed, but I'm a little fired up about this one.
A little bit.
A little bit.
I would be if I didn't wasn't so tired.
What can I say? And
Yeah.
I'm sure fired up Ginger is by far the most entertaining Ginger. But so I think I first of all I think your analysis of what's likely to happen in terms of who's the victor,
Mm,
Biden being declared victor by the media, and then Trump contesting it and eventually being ruled victor by the Supreme Court is
yeah.
highly likely.
Mm,
I think, regardless of who is ultimately declared the victor,
mm.
the other side is not going to accept it.
No. Either. Yeah,
And
either.
and certainly, I think the right has got all kinds of reasons to not accept it.
Mm,
And for the left, to be fair, having another election having to be decided by the courts, I can see why you wouldn't be happy about that.
yeah.
In all fairness,
Yeah.
if I've got the shoe on the other foot,
Mm,
so neither side is going to wind up accepting this. If it's Trump, is going to be mass rioting out in the streets. It
mm,
will strike just about every major city in this country again, as it did at the beginning of the George Floyd riots.
mm.
Possibly many mid-sized cities, maybe a few random smaller ones, just for kicks.
Yeah.
If Trump is declared the victor, he will most likely shut them down quickly.
Because he has nothing to lose this time around.
Bingo. Even though he doesn't have a clear mandate with the as like you would have if it were a landslide, there's also nothing to lose. So screw
Right.
it.
Mm,
You give the governors and everything maybe a week to settle it down on their own.
mm.
Kind of a last chance sort of thing.
Yeah.
When they don't, you're like, all right, Insurrection Act, boom, National Guard, you guys are done,
Mm,
and we will have peace. And then we will find out just how serious they are about the revolution.
mm. Once the bullets start not being rubbery, it's not so fun anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It will. There will likely be live rounds getting tossed around, and the thing is, will Antifa will be on them? Will they be firing back? Or, as I said in the Sunday show, are they going to kind of go full on guerrilla warfare and start striking uh, supply chains? Are they going to start doing essentially random terrorist attacks? Like just steal a pickup truck, have a duffel bag full of pipe bombs, and just drive
Yeah.
through random small town USA and toss them out the side.
Well, see, that's the fun part about it, though, is that if that were to take place, and if they went a little relaxed on
Mhm.
retaliation against these people, and I'm talking about from like the civilian point of view, especially down in the South,
Hmm.
it wouldn't just be the National Guard who would be willing to light these people up.
Mhm.
It's going to be Southerners
Well, and that has
and
always
everyone
been,
else who's ticked off
yep,
at the ridiculousness of these riots.
and that has always, and that I think, Cullen, has been the goal for a while. I think between the lockdowns, between and the riots and everything, I think there has, how far up it might go, but I definitely think that there are people out there who have been hoping for a significant armed response from the right,
Mhm.
who are hoping for exactly that sort of thing, for the
Yeah.
right to just say, you know what, the cops aren't doing their job, the gunners
Mhm.
are calling it the National Guard, fine, we're the National Guard, and we're putting it down.
Mhm.
I think that they have been hoping for that
That's
because
why that's why people like Rittenhouse. That's why they liked him. Kyle, that's why people liked him
Mhm. Yep.
on the right because
Yep.
he was doing the thing that everyone wanted to do.
Mhm.
And what's even better about him is he didn't do nothing wrong. He was defending
Yeah, he
himself.
wasn't even really doing that.
Yeah.
He was there to protect one place and had that gun to help protect that place and
Mhm.
himself, and that's it. He wasn't going there to help
Mhm.
put down the rioters. He was
Right.
just going there to stop this from going to one place, and was even there to help if any of them got hurt.
Mhm.
And yet they painted him like as a Nazi. So
Yeah.
what's going to happen is eventually, because these riots, especially if they're not put down for whatever reason, it is going to provoke an armed response from the right at some
Oh yeah.
point. At some point, there will be some militia group somewhere that says, you know what, screw it, enough.
Mhm.
And they're going to go, and they're going to go hard.
Oh yeah.
Because here's the thing, when the right gets around, when people on the right get around to saying, okay, it's time to throw down, they're gonna
Mhm.
throw down. They're
Yeah.
not gonna do it. They're not gonna be they're not gonna be tossing condoms full of urine. They're
Yeah.
gonna they're gonna be tossing 2, 2, 3 rounds.
And that's the thing is like the left is it's regular for the left
Hmm.
to riot.
Yep.
It's not regular for the right to do that.
No,
But
it
when
is
they
not.
do, it's
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 not really
like
a riot.
yeah, it's not a riot. It's
It's
called
something
it's
else.
actually bringing order.
Yeah, exactly. And that is going to lead that and because this is most likely to happen in a Democrat run state,
Mhm.
that Democrat governor is then going to call in the National Guard to put down the armed uprising from the right wing militias.
Mhm.
That's what's going to happen. And then you're between that and the corona fascism, you are going to have martial law.
Mhm.
And that's when it's going to get really scary.
Did we just predict the Civil War?
Yep.
Yeah.
And see, if Biden wins, I don't see the scenario playing out that much differently, to be perfectly honest, because one, because especially since the Republicans seem to have kept control of the Senate and even have gained in the House, that means that they're going to have the opportunity to stonewall the Biden Harris agenda
Mhm.
to a significant degree.
Oh yeah.
That is going to piss off the left, and they will continue to riot. And frankly, I predict if Biden is the winner, there will be targeted attacks. Uh, I should say more targeted attacks on Republican senators.
Oh, it was a DC's mayor I heard said, "Hey, don't rush to Mitch McConnell's place if something happens."
Yeah, that I promise you, that will be happening,
Mhm.
and it won't just be Mitch McConnell. It won't just be Rand Paul. It will be
Right.
others. It'll
Mhm.
be Ted. It'll be Cruz. It'll be Lee.
Mhm.
you know, it'll be all basically anyone other than the axis of Rhino, Romney, Murkowski, and Collins.
Mm.
They're they're I expect that any one of them could be targeted,
Mm-hmm.
probably several of them, and that's when, and at some point then, at some point there, the right will respond on their own.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see a Biden victory really changing that calculus at all.
No.
I mean, the slowest way with that would happen would be that Biden is that the Senate doesn't wind up stonewalling a lot of his agenda, or he just completely bypasses them, and it doesn't wind up mattering. Well, then legislatively the right gets more and more pushed into a corner,
Right.
and who knows what who knows what happens then. At some point when you know stories start going around of people having their kids taken away from them because they're perceived as teaching hate in the home, or some teacher said that little Jimmy is showing signs of transgenderism, but he's being suppressed by his parents.
Some teachers showed Muhammad, so we had to behead him.
Yeah. So things along those lines, or they start actually saying, "Well, nope, gun buyback time, kids," and we're like, "Oh, look, everybody just had tragic boating accidents. Shocker." Or it's like, I sold, I did a private sale. I sold it to I sold it to Cullen Kloss. Apparently he doesn't live where he used to live anymore. It's gone. I'm sorry. I don't know where it is anymore.
No. Or you could always move to Louisiana and just hide out in the swamps.
Tempt me not, sir. Well, no, not Louisiana, because it's just way too hot and humid. I just no. Look at me. Do I look like I would do well in the South?
I didn't say it was gonna be comfortable. I just said it's good to hide out in.
Yeah, and so yeah, I don't really see any particular scenario where we don't find ourselves in some sort of Civil War like situation by the end of, frankly, a Biden-Harris first term. Even Matthew does point out that assume that there's likely to be a massive reckoning for Democrats in the 2022 midterms, because that's right, the incumbent tends to get smacked around pretty good in midterms. That unfortunately doesn't take into account the willingness of the far left to burn stuff down, which they have shown, and I don't expect that to go away. If they don't, if they do calm down, if they're like, "Hey, you know what, we're done with that," then yes, then what, business will continue more or less as normal, and we'll continue slouching towards Gomorrah. But
do you personally, yeah, the ginger, do you so your personal take, where you see this going? So, because you said you kind of agree with my outlook at it, as terms of you'll see Biden as a victor, but then it'll go to the courts, right?
Yeah, I think that's likely.
So, in terms of the left, we know that's going to happen. But if Biden wins, I think, as you're kind of hinting at, the left may calm down. May a little, even if it's just a slight bit.
Yeah, there is a possibility, but that, to me, winds up just delaying it, because they'll move ahead as legislatively as much as they can. The only, like I said, our hope would be that for some reason they don't respond violently to a stonewalling Senate. But gosh, I've got to see some evidence that they're going to do that.
Right.
If it's a Biden victory and we're still having conversations like this a year from now, then yeah, we'll continue sliding in the wrong direction, as opposed to just being in free fall off the cliff.
Right.
But we don't have far to slide either.
No.
So, uh,
And see,
yeah.
candidate wise as well, like Republicans only have one way we can go. We can't go back to our George Bushes or our McCains or any of that. Like Trump set, and that's part of the reason this is so bad as well, is because Trump he's set the standard for what we have to go for now. We can't
Mm.
just go back to your normal politician. We
No.
have to have that blunt,
Hmm.
willing to even at the expense of being their own worst enemy, just that bluntness with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fight now
Mm,
for what will the Republican Party be going forward?
yeah.
And there's some things that Trump has introduced that I'm not a huge fan of.
Mm,
There's other things that I'm really glad he has. Like I think it is good that he's made a direct effort to go after the Latino and Black votes and everything instead of and go into areas where normally he wouldn't because that's been disregarded for far too long.
mm,
It's ridiculous. As a matter of fact, the way that Republicans have always continually retreated
mm,
anytime the left claimed this is ours. I was like, well,
right.
okay, I guess that's
Yeah.
yours.
Or conservatives or
Why?
progressive going the speed limit. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It. So what? And it is going to be a battle because yes, the Nikki Haley types, the Marco Rubio types, all of them, they're going to be trying
Mm,
to kind of restore things to the normal order, to restore things to restore the Republican Party to national review type
mm,
respectability.
right.
Yeah, I don't care about that at all. I want, and I hear a lot of people too, and I count Pence as among those people. To be perfectly
Mm,
frank, I don't. Pence isn't a fighter.
mm.
He just isn't.
It's definitely the Catholic probably go-to candidate in any other circumstance. But
He's a very nice man who
yeah,
seems to have lived a very good personal life, but
mm,
he doesn't have the stones for the kind of
right.
fights that we're in. He just isn't that guy. He's a great candidate for 20 years ago.
Hmm.
We're not in. Of course, it's also politicians like him that ran everything 20 years ago that are part of why we are where we are now.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely not going to be on the Pence train or the Haley train or the Rubio train or any of those trains. Any of those trains of the normal establishment, and frankly, Mitch McConnell is part of them too.
Mm,
He just knows how to play cutthroat
yeah.
when he really wants to. When he's like, you know what? I mean, he is a cutthroat politician. He is extremely effective, but he's extremely effective only when he chooses to be.
So you could honestly see a Trump Jr. 2024, basically.
I could,
If
but
we
I
can't
don't
go
want to.
right, yeah. I'm just saying like a Trump Jr. 2024,
Mhm.
highly possible because I mean, who else is going to fill that? At least right after Trump, who's going to fill that continuous, not the typical politician role?
I could. I think. I think Cruz could do it. I think he's lost some of his fire. To be
Mm,
honest, I think 2016 hurt him
mm,
badly. Like on a personal level, I think it did.
yeah.
He's gotten some of his legs back under him since, but I don't know if he's the same guy.
Mm,
Um, so maybe. I don't. There isn't. I think a clear individual. However, a Ron DeSantis,
okay. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of potential there.
I can see. Yeah.
I would really like to see like a Ron DeSantis Christy Nome ticket.
Mm,
I would be very interested in seeing
mm,
that particular combination right there, because I don't know what Christy Nome was before COVID hit, but she has been a rock star in how she has handled the whole COVID situation in
mm,
South Dakota.
yeah.
Essentially, she was the first one to come around and say, "We're not doing hysteria here. We're not jumping. We are not jumping on the hysteria bandwagon. It's not going to
Um,
happen in South Dakota."
can you highlight the Tucker one real quick?
Yes, yes.
So Margot, in terms of Tucker Carlson, I think a couple people say this as well. Tucker Carlson, I think Tucker needs to stay the voice of the U.S. For him to be the leader of the U.S.
Yeah.
just wouldn't work out. He is the voice, in my opinion.
He's not really a politician.
Right.
And that's fine actually. But I don't know if I see him as being in that policy setting role.
Right.
I just don't know if that's there. I don't know if it is a good choice, even aside from the fact that he's probably more effective where he is.
Exactly. Maybe not on Fox though, but
right. I just don't know that he's the right guy for that. That said, I mean, would I say no? No, I wouldn't.
no.
And Margot is quite right. No one knew him before COVID. That's because she was the governor of South Dakota. Let's be honest. Okay, nobody under normal circumstances, no one knows who the governor of South Dakota is. But this put her on the stage in a way that, and she's performed better than most governors, especially most governors you had heard of before. Greg Abbott, just as an example.
Yeah.
And it's apparently the case that things are freer in Iowa than they are in Texas right now. So yeah, Texas ain't Texas no more, guys. I'm sorry. So yeah, I 2024. I like the Sanctus. I like Nome. I think I'm surprised Brian Kemp doesn't come up more often. Governor of Georgia. Okay. He also handled COVID very well. And I think the COVID handling is going to be one of the key factors in any 2024 race, no matter who wins this time. COVID handling is going to be a major thing for selecting a candidate for the Republican Party. And of course, there's always what about Kanye? Gosh, when he's kind of on the stump and talking, I love what he says for the most part. I really do. Does he have
then he keeps going?
yeah, then he keeps going. But does he have the discipline to run a solid political campaign? No, probably not.
And I think, look, Trump being the president is good, I think, right? People would be like, he'll make a disgrace of the White House. I don't think he's made a disgrace of the White House. Actually, I think he's actually fulfilled that role extremely well. Kanye West, on the other hand, Kim Kardashian as the first lady and Kanye West giving an inauguration speech will literally kill this country. If Biden and Trump don't do it, Kanye will literally be what kills us.
Well, as far as Kim Kardashian, hey, let's be honest, Melania's got a past.
Yeah. But it's one thing to have a past. It's another thing to still be living in that.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, you know what though? I'd be here for it. I'm like, you know what? By gosh, if the country's burning down, this is one hell of a way to burn it.
Just here to have fun at this point.
What's that whistling sound? Oh, it's a mortar shell.
Yeah.
It's what's left of the Republic.
Oh man. Sorry, Ben.
Oh man, it'd be one hell of a way to go. That's all I gotta say. I'd be 100% A-okay with it. But so I guess final, why don't we get some final thoughts here as far as what the heck should we do?
Pray. Literally, because that's the thing. There is nothing we can do. I mean, okay, let me phrase that. I don't want to give it's a hopeless thing, but literally we can do no more at this point except pray that God willing, whatever happens, and that it works out in the end. Which For the Christian, I guess it works out. If you're an atheist, I feel bad for you right now because there really is no hope. But that's what I would leave with is just pray about it. Um, Even if Biden's elected, God will
Hmm.
use him for whatever he needs him to be used for.
Hmm.
But that's it. Just pray about it, and don't worry. Don't worry about it either. You know, don't worry about tomorrow, no matter what happens. Literally, don't worry about tomorrow because we may not even get the results tomorrow. Or now, if you want to worry Friday, that's one thing. But
Well, as far as the election goes, um, I do think everybody needs to sit back, take a breather, because we're
mm,
not going to know a
right.
final result for a while.
Mm,
I really, I don't think so. I think honestly, we're looking at a couple weeks at best. I think we're probably looking at into December. We may seriously not
mm,
know before Christmas who
mm.
is going to be inaugurated in January.
Ask Santa for a Trump victory, people. Do you hear
Yep, yep. And maybe a Christmas miracle will be Trump wins.
it?
Uh,
Yeah.
I think that is. Yeah, so as far as obsessing over every little tidbit of
Mm,
information that's coming out, as far as what the vote counts are and everything, just relax right now. There's
mm,
recount. Trump's requested recounts in Wisconsin. He's filed lawsuits in Michigan and Pennsylvania. This is going to be a while.
mm.
All right, we're not. This is as far as that goes. This is going to make the 2000 Bush v. Gore election look like a freaking walk in the park. It's going to be beautiful. Um, gosh, I was going to wrap things up, but Matthew just threw up a point that I think is 100% worth addressing here quickly. Trump talks about himself. Kanye talks about Jesus. He's got a solid point.
Mm.
Although, to be
Yeah.
fair, Trump's been bringing up Jesus a little bit more lately, but
I'm about to
also
say,
your
yeah.
point does stand, Matthew. Um, that
He it
that
could have just been
is
playing to the voters though, but he did say recently, like, "So you're, someone said he was the most famous guy in the world," and he's like, "No, I'm not." And he's
God.
like, "Who is?" And he said, "Jesus." And maybe he was playing to the voters. I could see that he was playing, maybe,
Yep.
but he's getting out of it. I think.
I think so, but still, I think that is actually a
But
pretty
yeah.
good point. Although Kanye still also goes off the rails from time to time. You're like, what the heck are you
Mm,
talking about? And I'm not super, but in any case, it is interesting. And like I said, if Kanye some got some discipline with his message a little bit,
mm,
and actually come up with a campaign schedule and everything and kind of stick to it, I think he could. I think he would be a contender, to be perfectly honest. I really do, because if he could focus up that message, well, and keep talking about Jesus and keep a solid, you know, plan, the that is going to appeal obviously to a lot of the black community, and it's going
mm,
to appeal to, frankly, a lot of white evangelicals, especially the younger ones, who might have grown up listening to Kanye.
yeah.
So I think if he if he flexes the right muscles, I think he'd be more of a contender than we
Yeah.
might think right now. But in any case, um, you know, yeah, don't worry about the election for right now. It is what it is. It is what it's going to be. There's not a lot we can directly do other than, as you said, pray
Mm,
first and foremost. I think I was praying just about every hour, roughly every hour on the hour all day, like no
yeah.
kidding. And it's, you know, and also, you can pressure your congressman to make sure that they exert pressure and, write all the letters and say,
Mm,
do all the investigation so that they know that you're paying attention, essentially.
yeah.
And if you are in a position to do so, pay attention. If you were like a precinct delegate or something, someone who has perhaps access to the local process,
Mm,
involve yourself. Get in there, do whatever it is you are able to do to make sure that everything is operating the way it ought to. And if it isn't, take that evidence to wherever it is it needs to go and make sure it is prosecuted. as much as you possibly can. And again, pray, because holy crap, do we need that right now?
Yeah.
And as far as anything else, um, all of because, like I said, as far as any of the unrest and everything coming,
Mm.
do whatever you got to do to be ready to defend yourselves, defend your friends, defend your family. Because depending on where you live, you may have to. Fortunately, if you don't live anywhere near the big cities, you're probably going to be fine, most likely.
Mm.
Um, where I live, probably fine.
Right.
Where you live, probably fine.
Yeah.
You know, um,
Make you jealous. I'm close. I'm going to be closer to the Daily Wire than you, I think, actually.
you are, yes,
Paducah.
considerably, as a matter of fact.
Paducah, Kentucky. Yeah.
That's all right. If they do a bash down there sometime, I'll just pick you up on the way. uh, so everybody, take a deep breath. Do whatever you got to do do whatever you can do. Write the letters, involve yourself, however it is possible to do. Pray and be just. It's very much in God's hands right now,
Mm.
and whatever happens, keep that in mind. That things are working the way they're working for some sort of reason, even if it's not going to be fun in the meantime. Because I'm not going to sell you that. Don't worry about anything because God's in
Yeah.
control. Because God was in control in the Black Plague too. So,
Mm.
you know, uh, yeah, it can still be rough, but I would say, final message: don't give in to despair. Your hope is again, if you're a Christian, your hope isn't in this world anyway. As bad as this world may get, this is not where your home ultimately is. Keep that in mind and keep praying. And as always, until next time,